And let me widen the screen real quick. Screen. Okay. Yeah, I'm not tired at all. Hey, everybody! Welcome to another episode of Crypto Warfare. This is one of the hosts. This is Z Baby.
What's going, guys? This is Drewski.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, we got a awesome show for y'all tonight. We're going to be interviewing Heidi Love. I'm gonna give you guys a little brief bio for you with her. Okay. All right, here we go. She's got a lot on this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't read it all. You want me to tell
I
him?
won't read it all. I'm just gonna read the cliff notes. All right, here we go. Okay, Heidi. Okay, she's an ex-Mormon who spent about 34 years immersed in the faith, and she broke free about 13 years ago. She has since become passionate about sharing her experiences and insights. During her time as a devoted member, she went through the endowments of the temple rites and given her a unique perspective, and that she'll share on her shows and interviews and with other people. And expect deep dives into into her journey and open conversations and throughout provoking discussions. So I'm going to leave that with smoke and not mirrors.
Fire.
So anyways, guys, may we give you Heidi Love. Heidi, girl, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate
Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm so happy to be here. And we are going to have mirrors actually tonight because we're going to be talking about black mirrors. Yes, they're actually not mirrors.
Righty then.
Yes, we got to bring the heat because we got to talk about more than just, the same old thing, but also the same old thing as well. But in another way.
You said, the floor is yours, girl.
Yes. All right. Well, I always want to bring into account about John Dee because it'll inevitably get into our journey about Mormonism eventually here. So he was kind of the father of the occult in the 1500s, and he gets skipped over all the time. He was Queen Elizabeth's astrologer, and he would go and help her decide things, but he was never actually part of her court. He was a mathematician, and he was his father was in court for King Henry VIII. And he was like the tailor. He was not exactly a tailor. He was like the fabric dealer. And so we always thought he would be able to get into court, but he never did. And so he's kind of bummed out about that. But she kind of kept him hanging around because he was like, hey, your sister's going to die. And so she's like, yes, because she wanted to be the queen, So she was like, maybe I'll keep him around. And she did. She's a Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary killed all. Yeah.
I did that.
So, yeah, Lady Bathory. Yeah, and Lady Bathory too. They were all involved in this, and so anyway, long story short, she was like, "Well, maybe I'll keep him because he was right, and she died, and so I got to be the queen." And she gave him money, and he got to be involved, but he wasn't in court, and so he wasn't really protected. But when he did say all that crap about your sister's gonna die, also she was like, "You're probably a witch," and so they threw him in jail. This poor guy's life. I'm like, man,
22, man.
Yeah, he gets screwed all the way around, clear till the end, and then he just dies. It's kind of sad. And so I laugh, but he shouldn't have played with demons. So we'll get there. Yeah, he thought they were angels, and he was super devout, and he actually was a Christian, but he just was, when they say you shouldn't open the Pandora's box of everything. Yeah, he was kind of screw the box, open the box, and it bit him. And so he just, he wanted to open it all. He was like, no, I want to know. And that was his whole deal. He was like, okay, I've studied everything I can study here. I'm bored. He probably had ADD. I don't know.
Bouncing from one thing to another. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. 4 hours of sleep a night. He would wake up early just to study every day. He was really, really into it. And so when he couldn't find out anymore, he was like, I think I could channel some angels. And yeah, because that's, as one does, right? We're going to do that. But the problem with a really mathematical type person that's really serious minded, they're not super creative about receiving angelic things or voices or whatever. So he had to go find somebody else. He's like, man, I can't do it. He kept trying. It just wasn't happening. He's too analytical. And I understand that. I feel that would be me. I'm like, I get it, man. But so he found this guy and he's like, Edward Kelley. I don't know if you've heard of Edward Kelley, but that was his scryer.
Okay.
At first when he met him, he totally gave him a fake name and he had his ears cut off because he had like they did
himself.
Man,
he put a hat on.
He just straight up did a Doberman on him.
Yeah. They were gone. Cropped him up because he had got caught doing something he shouldn't have. And I think he was like forging house documents, I believe is what he got in trouble for. Like saying they were paid for like deeds and whatever. So the state didn't like that. And they were like, chop. So probably didn't heal. Yeah. My guess as a nurse is that didn't heal well.
Hell no.
Why we don't do that kind of stuff anymore.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I think we should.
Yeah. I mean, some people, they just need it. I mean,
they don't care about the 3 hots in a cot. You think they're going to get scared? No. Yeah. No, they're signing up for that. Like, yeah. So he helped him and he really did. Okay. Two sides of that story is a lot of people believe him. I'm one. I believe he probably really did channel these things. A lot of people say he was a big fat liar because he had his ears cut off and he seemed like a con man. And I get that part, but like he tried to quit. They did this for 8 years. Like this wasn't like a blip in history. This wasn't like a year or 5 minutes. Like this wasn't a weekend thing. No, this was every day, just doing this constantly for 8 years. And there was all these rules and they had like all this furniture they had to build. They had a table they had to have with seals and all this special stuff. And I mean, it was a lot. So they were super dedicated. And all this stuff starts coming through. So he's like, I don't know if I like this very much. And this is why I believe him. He started going kind of crazy from it. And he was like, I'm kind of done. And he tried to leave. And he came back like within a couple days saying that he felt his guts were like on fire inside. And then like he opened the book and a sword came out and stabbed him until he knocked it off. And like, it wasn't real, but it was like stabbing him. And John D could see it, but he was like, oh man, I'm not going to interfere in that one.
Seriously.
Get the other ear. No, just kidding. There was already both.
They would have been like, huh? No.
Right? What did you say? No. So I truly believe he almost went crazy from this. And so that's why I believe him. Cause I'm like, really? You think he would just sign up for that every day? I don't know. He was only doing it on and on and on like this because John D was like, you're in trouble and they're looking for you. So if you don't help me, I'm gonna tell. So, yeah. So it wasn't exactly like his will. I think he did get paid probably, but like I'm pretty sure it wasn't what he was going through, you know. So they do this and they're contacting all these. They believe they're angels and they start receiving this Enochian alphabet. It's backwards and they're sigil like type letters, but they were so difficult. They said that there's no way they could have made this up because you can still send and receive messages in the Enochian language today. And they use it. And so it's super complicated. And they use it for sigils and sigil magic. And they like try and call down these things. People say it works. I mean, it's very dangerous. Enochian magic. I wouldn't mess with it if it were me.
Sure. No way.
Yeah, no, because at the middle of this all, it starts getting really weird. And also they like had no money for any of this stuff anymore. And they were staring into this weird obsidian black mirror to get this stuff, but it's not really a mirror. They call it that. It's kind of like a polished crystal. And it's just black. And Nostradamus did this stuff as well, but he would stare into a bowl of water. It's just basically something dark, I think. But they said the Aztec like mirror came out of nowhere and they were nowhere near where it comes from. It's like from Mexico somewhere. So found that also interesting.
Well,
same thing. Yeah.
What's going on off of that? What's funny about mirrors and water and stuff is a lot of times when it goes in like demonology and stuff like that and Satanism, a lot of those act as like portals.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's why they always say like, you know, who's over the waters, Satan's over the water. You know, even Mormons got that one right. Their missionaries can't go swimming. So they really can't. They say no because Satan's over the water. You can't get in the water the whole time. Like you're on your mission. Like you can take a shower, but not in the ocean.
I was like, man, they gotta be stinky.
No. No,
Okay.
they already can. Maybe they do want them stinky because they can't date, but they can have a shower. They can have a shower. They just can't go in any bodies of water. We'll say it that way, like that are natural. And so, long story short, here they're contacting all these entities, and they're poor, and they're like, hey, can you help with this, like with some of the money? And they're like, yeah, no, like we don't care. And also you stink. Like they hated the smell of people. They constantly told them how disgusting they were. Like basically they just completely shut up, shit on them every day, gave them this stuff, and was like, you're gonna write it down even if you don't want to. Too bad for you. Like you will write this. And so they do. And it continues like that, and they end up losing. Like he lost his house. He lost 2 wives before that. With the 3rd wife, well, all of a sudden the angels were like, hey, we have this great idea. You guys should switch wives, right? Because we haven't heard this playbook before. And so they're like, yeah, I don't know about that. And they're like, you have to share everything or this won't work. So they do. And that pretty much ends the Enochian workings because it's all messed up after that. And also, like, John Dee decides he's going to go home. Edward Kelley stays because they had traveled to other places at this point. I think it was Russia. It might be Prague. But anyways, he's there for that emperor trying to make gold and alchemy, and he ends up dying. And there's 2 versions. Some say he died in his cell. Some say he jumped out a window. Some say he got his leg broken, then jumped out again and broke the other one, then died because they cut them both off. I'm not really sure what happened to him, but he died. Okay. And so 9 months later, John Dee has this beautiful bouncing baby boy that looks just like Edward Kelley, and he raises him for the rest of his life. So that sucked. Then on top of it, he gets home and some of his other kids die. And like he ends up living till the 80s. And all of this work does nothing for him. All that crap he went through, he loses most of his family, kids, everything from the plague. Like his wife hated him because of what happened. Like it was a huge mess, and he never got anything out of it. So all this working got buried and forgot about for another 200 years. And it didn't come back about until the Golden Dawn members started kind of searching into this. Not that it almost actually completely got burned up because a maid was using it for fire kindling start. But luckily that didn't. Yeah. Multiple books. And so I'm not sure who found them exactly, but eventually they were like, stop doing that, dumbass. And so, and I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad that we have this knowledge, but regardless, they stopped her from burning it up as like fire starting material, probably toilet paper. That's probably a lie, but who even knows, right? So the point of this big, huge story is during that time, they also gave him a seer stone. And it came out of nowhere, and they just gave it to him, and it's this polished seer stone. Well, isn't that interesting? Because almost every religion kind of starts this way. Now, Catholics are probably the exception in this, but like you want to go to what happened with Muhammad. He saw an angel. The angel told him to write a book, and he did. And then he oppressed women, and they had polygamy, and there you go. So Joseph Smith, same damn thing. Hey, I saw angels, and the angels told me to write a book, and then polygamy, and and so boom, the ones that didn't get into polygamy got into weirder stuff, right? Because we're gonna get to like Jack Parsons and all that, and they wrote a book, and what happens? He blew himself up, and Hubbard went on to do Scientology, but still the work came from what? An angel. And the ones that didn't see angels, well, that's because they wouldn't have wanted to see anything else. So we get into Crowley. Crowley didn't see an angel, but he sure did see an alien. He saw Awas. Awas said, hey, why don't you write a book? He wrote the book. He made it. It's like a foundation of Thelema. So the Book of the Law. That's and actually later, what happens there too? It was the one time Crowley even said that alien lied to me, and I wished I'd never written it. Which makes me even wonder if it's even a negative book or not, because then it makes me think, okay, like if you regret it and you're as evil as you are, is it a good book? Is it a bad book? I don't know. But it makes a lot of sense, with all these. It's like an on and on and on in story. And so I'm just like, when I started coming out of Mormonism and found out all this stuff wasn't translated by just like, oh, there's these actual plates and he's just writing stuff down. That's like not what happened. He had a seer stone. He put it in a hat. He was looking in the hat and telling the symbols. And if you look at there was one little piece of writing that they tried to have authenticated.
Yeah.
And it is Enochian. You can look at it. He called it Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Okay.
Reformed. He said reformed Egyptian. And there's a book that I'm definitely going to have to do a whole episode on, but the Book of Abraham, because it is the biggest piece of shit. And I cannot believe the Mormon Church has not tried to scrub this from like everywhere, but they can't, because we all remember it. We were taught about it, and it was actually like mummies inside the book. And it was the only thing I like to stare at during sacrament because it's so damn long. Like you got 3 hours of church, you know, and you're a kid. So I'm like looking at this weird mummy thing, this weird mummy drawing, which later they found out he bought from just like traveling mummy salesman. I mean, how weird is that? But we've got world's fairs going on at this point, like all kinds of weird shit's happening in the world. So he bought a mummy and he bought this stuff. And later it has like been translated and actually found out that it's like just burial, like a burial piece of paper, like, and they found out, oh no, it's nothing like what he said it was, and blah, blah, blah. And he was talking about it being like from Abraham and all this crazy wild stuff. And people say, well, he was high on mushrooms. And I'm like, or he was haunted by demons that stab you with swords and tell you to finish the damn book. So we go back to John D. And that's why I like to tell the story, because I'm like, look, you can play with fire. You can say you don't believe in demons, but if you believe in God, this is where it gets fun. The people forget, what does it say in the Bible? Know your enemy, right? Like you should know your enemy. So, okay, number one, if you believe in as above, then you have to believe in so below, right?
Exactly.
And people don't want to because they're scared, and they've instilled this. Yeah, they instilled that from you, like as a child. Like even my mom, when I started doing this stuff, like deep diving into like, I was like, hey mom, guess what? King James, he did the Bible. That's cool. Okay. I love the Bible. I'm 100 all about the Bible. He wrote 3 books on demons. And she's like, no, he did not. I'm like, no, I did. I promise he did. They're called Demonologia. And she's like, what? And I'm like, no, it's real. It happened like same time. And she's like, no, that didn't happen. And I'm like, it did. And she's like, well, don't read that. And then I'm like, mom, you have to know what's going on.
You have to you have to know your enemy. Because if not, just like in the Bible too, it says when God says, my people, what does it say? Like basically like my people
like a sheep, like a sheep, they know their masters, like how sheep recognize the voice of their master.
Yeah. And something that, like my people will fail, because like their lack of knowledge.
Yes. And so that is what they're trying to take from us, because what are they doing constantly to us? The other thing that John D tried to do was correct the calendar, and they persecuted him for it hardcore, because he said, no, there's supposed to be 13 months and 20, all these certain days that go with the lunar phase. He tried to fix it, and they were like, no, you are not going to do that. And then, so when Elizabeth died, King James came, and he hated John D because he's very biblical, hates witchcraft. So that was all bad for him.
What's a trip too is it's also like with the calendar, and also like with the face of the clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the clock and you start adding up the numbers across from each other, it all equals 13. It's crazy.
Yes.
12 and 1, 13, 11 and 2, 13, 10 and 3.
Well, and the Sundays line up. If there's only 28 days and there's 13 months, the Sundays will line up. Like there's certain lunar phases will always be, you'll have certain ones on Sundays and all this stuff. And he knew it because he was this huge mathematician. Like most of his work that is brilliant and that he gets like actually noteworthy good things for is his math.
Yeah.
But like they throw this other stuff out because they're like, he went a little crazy. And I'm like, no, he didn't. He got freaking tortured because he was messing with shit he shouldn't have. Yeah. He was not learning. He took it overboard and started, doing things. When you're doing something for an angel or demon that seems really weird, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? An angel's never going to come here and be like, you should screw this guy's wife. Like, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah. I know, right?
Hello.
Yeah,
like,
kind of Angel Hollywood, what you think?
Right. Like, he's like porn master angel over there. What the hell's going on with that? Right. And I mean, he knew too. He was like, no, I know it's totally wrong, but I want this so bad. And that's why it worked for him, because they knew what he wanted. They know our heart's desires. They are called familiar spirits for a reason.
Exactly.
They know
everything. They know your
struggles.
They know what you,
know you since birth.
Right? Yes. And people go, well, I believe in guardian angels and they protect us and they know me since birth. I'm like, guess what else knows you since birth?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You've all got assignments, and so do I. And I mean, I'm just not afraid of it anymore. I refuse. Because if you're into sports at all, like, are you guys into sports at all? So what do you like? So what's your sport? Hockey, football? What you like?
Okay, soccer, basketball.
Okay, soccer. So we'll go to soccer. Like, what do you want to do if you're going to want to win a team? You're going to watch what they did in other games. You're going to watch their play. So we got to start watching our play, because we're getting taken all the time because we are not watching the play. Like, really. We might not be able to change it. We can't change the calendar, but we can watch the play. We can know what's really up. We can try and figure that out. Try and, use
between the lines.
Use your reasoning. And why the hell did King James put together 3 books of demons if we don't need to know anything about that?
Yep.
I mean, and also, why are we taking books out of it that King James put in it? I don't think that's a good idea either.
No, not like that. That totally leads on another rabbit trail with the Smithsonians and the Catholic Church and all that.
Yeah, and you see it constantly. They're always trying to flip it upside down. They always want you confused, because if you figure it out and I figure it out and I start yapping about it, and we all tell each other, and then we're all going to band together and they're going to be in trouble. That's the whole point of everything. People want to say, well, it's not the same as this and that. I'm like, look at the Kabbalah. Look at that. How many Sephirots are there? It all goes back. Like, think of it all ties together. And unfortunately, it all ties together with some evil stuff too, like the Magus. Like, I'm not that it's specifically evil, but you can do evil things with it, and people just have to know this stuff. And people are like, why are you reading that crazy stuff? Like, that's scary. No, it isn't. Stop being afraid. Start figuring out, this is like one more thing in my arsenal that I'm going to use. Just make sure you protect yourself first.
Oh, 100%. Know your enemy. 100%.
And people are so shy about it. And I'm like, well, why? Like, why is this supposed to be scary to me? I'm not afraid. Like, Jesus puts things in your heart. Like, whether or not you are any religion, you can feel right or wrong. Like, come on, let's get down to core basic. Yeah. That's mostly how I function, because I don't belong to a church anymore. Yeah. I was deceived once. I got church. It's right here. This is church.
There you go.
And talking to a bunch of people. And that's about it. I don't do that anymore. Not that I wouldn't go if somebody wanted me to go with them or whatever. If you want me to, come and help you, support you, whatever. But that was why I got baptized outside.
Yeah.
That was why I didn't get baptized by a preacher. Just got baptized by a guy that was really into God.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why, because I felt like, okay, I did all this stuff in Mormonism. Why did I do it? Why was I so stupid? Now I look back and I'm like, what the hell were you thinking when you got these new underwear and they have the Mason's square and compass on your nipple? And why was that not a thought to you? Like, oh, that's kind of weird. Wonder why? No, there was never no wonder for me. I was like, no, that's just what they told me to do.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. I'm pretty much at the point where I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do whatever now. Like, I'm going to learn some stuff. Like, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I know for you, like, even with Crowley, now that you're hearing this stuff about D, where he got that workings from. Like, he does this stuff, he used it. And so, like, he used all of D's work, and so did the Golden Dawn.
Yeah. 100%.
And so I'm like, I think it's funny that people just I don't know, either they don't want to see it, they divide it. Even the occultists are divided amongst each other.
Yeah, they
which
are.
is kind of funny, I mean, nothing's cohesive. So that as long as it stays like this, I don't know how we can progress,
Oh yeah.
Fighting about what is a woman, like you said before we started. So as long as they keep us busy like that, I mean, come on, I don't even give a care. Like, whatever, move on. Like, if you got to fight about it, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, what's the trip is that okay? You talking about like kind of like OD, right? And then it went for him to Lester Crowley. It went from Lester Crowley to Anton LaVey, and just keeps going on and on and on. But what's crazy though is that I was reading like some of the quotes, I guess. Oh gosh, it's like the last words spoken on their deathbeds, right? Lester Crowley's was, "I am perplexed. Satan, get out." And then he died. And then Anton LaVey's was, "Oh my, what have I done? There's something wrong. There's something very, very wrong."
Mm-hmm.
Lights out.
Yep. And then even like Sam Kinison, he saw something. He was really afraid when he was dying. The guy that was holding him, because he got in a bad car accident, I guess, and he was like holding him. He was like completely freaked out. Like same thing. Like a lot of these people are like way scared. And I'll tell you, as a person that has dealt with a lot of death, I've been a nurse 24 years. I have seen a lot of people die. And usually it's not like that. Usually they're reaching out for like people, or they'll say like, my sister's here. They're happy. Like they're really not afraid very often. And when they are, you can tell why. Like it just is a feeling. Like I'm not going to judge anyone, but you can feel a difference.
Yeah, you can feel a different atmosphere in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the fear level, like people that are ready to go, they're not even concerned about dying.
Yeah, they don't
really.
Care. Yeah.
No, they're like, it's time. Okay, cool. Go. Yeah. Even people that aren't per se ready, they're not afraid. It's weird. It gets to that point. And the only person I have seen afraid that wasn't probably afraid of a demon or a devil, so funny. She kept saying, "No, I'm not coming with you." And this lady rallied for like 3 days, and she was a nice lady, and I felt good about it. It wasn't like a weird feeling in the room. I'm like, what the hell is she waiting for? And finally she yells out, "There you are. I wasn't going with him. I left him a long time ago. I'm not going with my ex-husband."
Oh gosh.
And she died. I was like, oh, all right, cool. Later, I asked
on that bus. Get out of here.
Next
I was like, oh, that was weird. And I asked later, who's this lady's name? And they're like, oh, that was her sister. And I was like, well, she was waiting for her, I guess. Whatever,
That's funny. He's like, all right,
yeah,
let's go.
She's not going with him. She was like, I'm not going with that one. But
yeah. Oh, this is a trip because prior to this, I was actually in law enforcement for a while, so we came upon this guy. Whatever I'm not gonna say his name, but his MO, he was actually like a child molester. He murdered some people and stuff. Well, he was on his deathbed, and we're over at hospice, kind of watching him. So. And then he was dying, and then he just started screaming, "Get away from me! No, get out! No!" And then he just croaked out.
Oh man, that's creepy. I
was like,
dang. You can feel it. You can feel it too when you go home. You're like, I need a shower.
Yeah.
Like, even if they didn't get anything like weird or anything, like just you can feel it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'm like, oh, you can kind of tell. And it's weird because they say, you should be scared or whatever. But I've helped almost all my family members die at home. Yeah. And I've never seen them be like terrified, other than my grandma, who didn't die at home, and she died in a hospital where she didn't want to be.
Yeah.
She was also extremely Mormon. And when I say, I mean, extreme. Like, she came at me, bro, when I left the church. It was so bad. But I'll tell you, my mom had been there, and she was like, I'm going to pray with my mom. And she was born again Christian. She went over to my grandma, and she had been in a coma for like 2 days. And I got there because she wasn't talking to me. I wasn't talking to her, but I didn't want her to think like I'm mad at you. I'm like, okay, here I am. Like, it's all good.
A little bit,
yeah. I don't want to be like the one that holds anything weird, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm there and my mom puts her hands on my grandma, been cold stone out for 2 full days. And she's like had all these heart problems. She puts her hands on her and she's like, you know that Jesus loves you. And she let out the most blood curdling scream. And I was like, holy shit. Like my daughter and me were just looking at each other and nobody said a word. And I was like, oh man. So I was like, okay. And I left the room and I went and got the nurse and I'm like, Ativan. I was like, give her some drugs. She needs to go back to sleep. I was like, no, we can't be having demons up in here. I don't know what the hell's going on over there.
Man, your mom was like about to do like
exorcism.
a deliverance.
Yeah.
She
was like screaming, like, get your hands off me. And like, I was like, oh my gosh. But it was, that was a lot. I was like, well, she wants her Freemason crap, even if she's going out.
Okay. So beyond that, like what, since you're in for a long time.
Yeah.
What was out of your time there in the temple, right? Is that what they call it?
Yep.
They have like levels of it, correct?
Yeah. So the temple is like anybody can go to church. The temple's like very special. You have to be qualified. You have to pay your tithing. You have to live a chaste, immoral life. Can't drink in coffee. And
what?
Can't drink in coffee.
Can't drink coffee?
No, sir.
Man.
No coffee, no tea.
Yeah.
No coffee, no tea. You got to pay 10% of your income to them.
Okay.
And by the way, there's no just like, I paid it. No, there's tithing settlement. It happens right around tax time. You take your taxes in and you show them what you made. And if you, there's no just donation box. No. This is
everything.
Yes, sir.
Business.
Yes, sir. And not only that, if you owe them money, say you were short or whatever, or you paid it on your net and not your gross, you will have to pay the church arrears and you cannot go to the temple until you do that. So this is why they fight for their membership so much. And they don't want other people to take them. You know, they don't want people to even claim people that are far out. They still claim me. I've been waiting for them to kick me out because I'm talking my yap. And I'm like, well, it's a big, huge process to have to get taken off of the records and retract everything. So I just figured they'd kick me out and still I'm waiting. So I guess I'm really going to have to do the damn thing because I guess they don't want to kick me out. So kick me out. If you're listening to this podcast, you know where I live. You send the door knockers all the time. Kick me out.
So out of your whole years being there, what was like that? What was like that aha moment?
The aha. Well, the temple is one. So I was explaining how you get there. And when you get there, you do all these weird Freemason rites and you have to get, well, not now. They don't make you get naked anymore. But when I went, you got naked and you put this poncho thing on and it slit up the sides. They don't do anything sexual to you, but they bless you underneath. And then you're sitting there and I'm like, why is this lady?
What?
And oh yeah, it gets good. And so they used to, now my great grandma, now see, we've got Mormons clear back on my DNA. Stupid thing I did because I wasn't a conspiracy person. So there's probably one of me in China or somewhere. Have fun with my damn back. But anyway, I did their dumb little swab spit thing. It even says on my DNA, Mormon settler, literally like
wow.
I can't even get away from it. So I'm sitting there and my grandma said, well, just don't worry because at least you don't have to get the tub where you get in the tub and they wash you down because that's how they used to do it. And I was like, what the hell? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, they come in and they're touching just like right here, nowhere bad. But the problem is,
okay, so is a male or female that's doing that?
It's a girl. Now here's why I'm mad. I'm mad about it. Because if you know anything about Mormons, girls can't hold the priesthood, and the priesthood is everything. So I can't give a blessing. My 12-year-old son, if he wanted to, not really because he's older, but like if I had a 12-year-old son, he could give me a blessing. He has the priesthood, but I don't have the priesthood.
Okay.
And so this lady's in there trying to give me these blessings, and I am so indoctrinated. I'm like, what the hell is this lady doing in here? Because she can't do it. Where's the dude? I'm naked. I'm like ready for him to come in. Like I got a poncho thing, but it's like all up the sides open, you know. Yeah. I don't even care. I'm like, where's the guy? And she says, you're not dressed. And I said, well, you're not a dude.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, because you're not dressed. And I said, you still can't do this. I've been taught this since I was a baby. You don't have the authority of the priesthood. And she said, in the temple, it's different. And I was like, of course it is, you know, like in my mind, because I was always pretty smart. Yeah. I was like, what? And so we finally get all done with the naked part and get clothes on. And you put on this robe that's one-breasted robe, of course, because we got to have new underwear that are Freemason, new name, that's Freemason. All on the underwear, by the way, they're so cute. I sent them to the Cult of Conspiracy today, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm just having a moment, hysterically laughing. I'm thinking of like you wearing this, like these are your underwear. I'm like, yeah. He's like, this is hysterical. They are like boxer shorts for girls. You know how fun that is when you're a lady and you got, you know, your problems every month.
Oh, that sucks.
And then you got these nursing ones that like have holes, because these are like full on t-shirts.
Yeah.
A little bit shorter on the blue shirt right there, like a cap sleeve kind of. Yeah. But you have to wear them and you can't ever take them off. So boxer shorts down to my knees, a little cap sleeve. You don't take them off unless you're showering, at the gym, swimming, or making more Mormons, right? Because I told you, Mormons got to make more Mormons. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's it. And there's all these rules with it. So we get those, we go in, we do this whole big thing, and we get aprons from the devil. I'm trying to figure that out. Like, remember, I'm super analytical because I was still not normal. Like I still went to college. Like I still got a career. Most Mormon ladies don't do that, you know, especially 17-year-old child brides like this.
Yeah.
So dumb. Yeah. So I got married at 17. But I never quit like going to school because I saw my mom suffer her whole life because she didn't go to school. Yeah. And she was with this dickhead that beat her up every day for 10 years of my life. And I just knew that that was never going to be me. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's not happening. Yeah, so yeah, I was like, I'm going to school. And so I didn't really fit in. And I knew some stuff was weird. And I was like, oh, man. So you're in there for 2 hours and then you progress and you learn all the Freemason handshakes. You know what those are? You seem to know some things about like weird stuff. Yeah. You know the Mason handshakes? Yeah. Okay. So the sure sign of the lion's paw is now the sure sign of the nail. He just flipped them and he made them into Jesus stuff. And then he took away 2. And then that's our signs and symbols. So we can take those to
just slap the Jesus bumper sticker on that.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yep. And he had gone through and gotten his Freemason temples stuff. And then 1 month later created our temple stuff. Not any same at all. Yeah. Okay. So after all that, I got done, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I get to the veil. I'm going to go to fake heaven. And I tell him, you know, my husband, he gets a new name. He tells God, fake God, his new name to go through the veil. And he goes through. I tell him, he never tells me his name. I tell him my name so I can go through, right? But he knows my name, but I don't know his. You want to know why? Because he tells his to God because he's God's. And I tell him mine because he's my God, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Everything in Mormonism is very patriarchal. Like patriarchal, everything. It used to be you couldn't even go to heaven if you weren't married.
What?
So, yep. And it used to be polygamists had to be married to 3 wives before they would go to heaven. I feel bad for them. So, like I said, that's a whole other...
Wait. I'm gonna throw like a little monkey wrench in here. Okay, so what would happen if you're like a polygamist, right? All of a sudden, your 3rd wife dies, right?
No, she's yours forever.
Oh, okay.
When we get married, it's time. They say when we get married, you are now married for time and all eternity. But here's the thing. I can only get married once. He can get married as many times as he wants to. If we get a divorce, which we did, he can get married again in the temple tomorrow if he's doing the things he should. Yeah. If I want to go get married again, I have to petition for a divorce, explain it to a council, sign for a temple divorce, have another man lined up to take his place, and send him a letter asking his permission. And he can say no. And I was like, yeah,
just
that's
to be
great.
A douche.
Yeah. And and then they have to, and he would have, if I had done that, he would have. And so it was like, okay, then what? Oh, you got to go before another council. Blah, blah, blah. It's like this big, huge thing because women can only be sealed to one person.
Yeah.
And then my ex-husband was going to go through with me. And then he's like, well, when do we get our son sealed to us? Because we had this baby son. And the guy looks at him. And this was when it ended. This is how you make a redhead go crazy. Okay. He's like, okay, so you don't need to have your son sealed. And he's like, no, I mean, I had a son with her. He's like, I know, but he was born under the covenant. And he's like, I've never been married in the temple. What are you talking about? He's like, well, it's like you're just going to switch places with her old husband. And then, and he's like, wait a minute, what? And he's like, are you telling me the man that doesn't take care of the other two kids, the one I'm raising his kids, is my son's sort of dad in fake heaven right now? And he's like, no. He's like, you guys can go. We're done. And I was like, wait. Because I'm still completely stupid then, I'm like, don't get mad. He's like, no way. That's some bullshit. He was so mad. And so that didn't happen. Thank God, because I'd probably still be in,
Yeah.
Because it was all perfectly aligned. Like, I know God doesn't align divorce, but I feel like my divorce from him was like something that had to happen for him, because then he met his true love after me, and he was terrible when I got sick. I mean, he was not on it. He just shut down. I had cancer. I got really sick.
Yeah.
And he didn't take care of me very good because he just didn't know what to do, and he just shut down.
Yeah.
And it wasn't me so much, but I just wanted him to take care of our son, know. And he didn't, and it kind of landed on my daughter, and it was a whole mess. So the next person he married was chronically ill. They didn't know, and she actually died very young. She was only like 45, and he took such good care of her. He was so good to her because he knew, because everything that happened with me and him, he knew, okay, this is how you do it better. And I went to their wedding. I wasn't even mad. Yeah. Like she made me go. She was the best lady ever. Like, she was such a sweetheart.
Oh man.
And yeah, it was hard because she was a Southern little lady. She was from the South, and this little black lady. She was so cute, and she got everything she ever wanted with my family. And I was so happy because I was like, she deserves it. She never had kids, but I did. So she had kids. She didn't have a dog at that time, but I had a dog, and he had the dog. So she got a dog, and she married him, and she got a husband, and that was all she ever wanted. And so she was super good to my kids. And all I can say is I'm so grateful. Like, people need to understand that more about step parenting is, if you love the person that you're with, then those are blood of their blood. Yeah. Remember that, people, because she was good to me. She would never mean to me, made me promise to go to their wedding. And she was a good lady. So everything he failed to do with me, he got it back on the other side, and he was wonderful to her. So such is life, right?
Well, there's that one, I guess.
And I met my true love too. So no harm, no foul,
Oh, it worked out. It's a blessing in disguise. It worked out.
Yep. He's just a little bit shorter redhead. But way buffer. So
nice.
Okay, don't be mad if my ex-husband hears this. He's cool too.
Dad bod.
Yeah, dad bod. He did. And you know what's funny? My daughter, he adopted my daughter from the other guy that ran off, and that was a whole disaster. But anyway, my 17-year-old husband that I married, he was 25 when I was 17, and we did last for 10 years. But my second husband actually adopted her after 18 because he was such a turd. He wouldn't have signed those papers because he wouldn't let him adopt her until after she was 18. And he adopted her anyways to give him the big, like,
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm her dad now. And the guy was like, oh yeah, well, I'm never gonna sign those papers. And she's like, I'm 18, dipshit. Like, and she's like, I don't need you. Like, I haven't needed you since you left. So yeah, it was kind of funny, but yeah, it all works out. You never know what God's got in store for you. And that's why my podcast is called Unfiltered Rise, because you have to rise above. And obviously I'm unfiltered because I can't figure out how to clean up my mouth yet, but I'll get there. But like I said, it's all meant for a reason. You never know what God's going to give you. Right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
Sorry, he has a late night munchies and it was really loud.
You're like, hey, stop it.
Oh no!
Got the zebra cake. Oh, no.
I got the
He's
Christmas
eating cake. He had to get a treat. He needs a snack.
He earned it. Oh, zebra. Tree. I was thinking because this
Zebra tree.
This Mormonism, it reminds me of Islam. Like I know in the beginning.
It is. No, it's truly.
I'm like, it's like an Americanized.
It
I
is.
remember like in history class, in college history class, whenever we covered John Smith and what he was a salesman or something
Joseph
like that.
Smith.
Yeah,
Joseph
Smith.
He was actually a treasure hunter. And so it's hilarious that people do not think that he had a magical background because they use scries. He was a virgin scryer. They used like the divining rods to help them find treasure, all this stuff in their family. In fact, to the point where he got in trouble. And this is why we know so much about the shit he did, is because they took him to court and said, this guy, he's not doing the treasure thing right. He sucks. So we want our money back. And they were like, and here's all the affidavits from all his neighbors about the weird shit he's been doing. That's why we know some stuff that we know. And so it's kind of awesome, but also like the church tries to cover all of it up. They're like, no, that neighbor hated him. Don't you know? I'm like, yeah, sure. That's what it was. It was the neighbor. Okay. And all these people have similar stories, but all of them hated him. Okay. Well, whatever, and so they totally contradict what was told to us, like this wholesome, beautiful story. The neighbor says no. He went out in the middle of the night, dressed in all black, had to borrow a black horse on the fall equinox to go to the hill to get the plates from the angel in the dark in the middle of the night. Right. That sounds super spiritual. That sounds like a beacon of light. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we get told this beautiful story with this angel and blah, like this light and all this wonderful, and that is not what we are told from neighbors and stuff. I mean, then you get into the family history relics where you've got sigil magic. There's sigils that are definitely Enochian in nature, specifically calling down certain angels that I've only ever seen in one place, which is why I found out about John D. I put in this little sigil thing that he had, and I was like, what the hell is this? Put it in, and it comes up. First of all, I sent it to myself. It comes up as dangerous. Do not open. I'm like, I sent it to me. I know who it's from. It's fine. So I open it and try to reverse search it, and it's telling me it's this sigil for this specific angel that's only mentioned one other time that I could find in all of the internet. That's John D. And I was like, who the hell's John D? And so that's what happened to me. And then I fell down a rabbit hole and I can't get out. So I don't know. I guess I won't try.
So out of your whole time, like, okay, so you've been out for how many years? 13?
Yes. Yeah.
13 years. Okay. Have you gotten anybody else out?
So all of my kids are out. All of my kids have been rebaptized. My mom is out. She was out before me. Yeah. My husband was smarter than all of us and never went fully in. At 16, he told his parents, this all seems really weird and I'm not doing that. So he's the little redheaded black sheep. He's like, no, he's the white sheep, I guess. He's like, this sounds really stupid. Like, you guys. Yeah. He's like, I'm not doing that. And I like coffee. So leave me alone.
Oh, man. I know. So
you're hot coffee out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and technically the rule is people always think it's about caffeine, but it isn't. The Mormons own Coke. They're not stupid, by the way. They own huge amounts of Pfizer. Don't get shook on that.
Yeah.
They are so, excuse my language, balls deep in everything that it does not surprise me when they came out and told their whole congregation during the thing that will never go away from 2020 to get them and every single person in their family to go in and get the cure for that right away. Right away.
The jab.
Mm-hmm. Immediately to children. And I was like, no, I wasn't even that far in conspiracy at that point.
By the way, kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. it was just something that I was like, hold on, 2 + 2. No, this doesn't look right. I was like, wait a minute.
Not only that, you don't even have to be a conspiracy theorist, like for the jab. Like if they're forcing people to do it, like it hasn't even gone through trials and test runs. You don't even know the side effects of it. You know, like the long-term side effects of it. Like, no, I'm not doing that, dude. Hell no.
That was the whole thing with me, because I really wasn't a conspiracy theorist at that point. I was just kind of like learning. Do you know The Last American Vagabond? Do you listen to that show?
Mm-hmm.
He's amazing. Ryan Christian does one thing that I give him props. And if he ever wants to talk to me, I will talk to you about anything. I just think he's awesome. But he doesn't do interviews, but just saying. So he lists all his source sites at the bottom of his interview stuff. So you can go to the specific JAMA studies. And this is what I was doing. And I was like, and still to this day, there's a couple doctors at work. And I saw one yesterday, and he's like, oh, hey, because I don't see him very often because I work PRN. So that's like on all different floors and just random. So he sees me and he's like, hey, why don't you work more? And I'm like, yeah, I remember why you like me. Because one day I got into an argument with him, and I almost sent him a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, do you value your job? I was like, hold on. Yeah, because he was trying to tell me about masks, and I was trying to tell him about masks too. We were having a talk. And I said, do you know what this is doing with this, and that they're getting parasites to kids because they're touching their face and going to the bathroom and sucking in worms and like all this stuff. And he just looked at me like I had lost my shit, like for real. And honestly, I felt that way. I was one of the only people, like there was a handful of us, and we all felt really weird, like persecuted. And I mean, I felt a little less. There were other people that did it on the whole. They stood up and signed like a legal paper. Mine was from a doctor because I have a lot of allergies. So I have asthma. You can always hear it kind of, but it was like, no, maybe she will die, And so I was like, good. I don't want that, And I told him all this stuff. And then now he sees me now that everything's come out, and he's like, where have you been? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm smart. Because I read something. It's not even that brilliant, people. Read the paper. Don't read the first 3 things that they put out, the sentence here and sentence there, whatever they cherry pick. Go read the dumb paper. We have the internet. We have a wealth of information.
Yeah,
you can go, anything you want to learn. Could you imagine John D., who only slept 4 hours so he could learn things, and went to the trouble of summoning demons to learn stuff with the internet? Like, come on, we can do it.
Oh, dude.
And speaking of that, back to the crystal. So here's a little fun fact. So everybody's like, why was he messing with that black mirror? And I'm like, yeah, well, what is a TV screen called, right? What are all our
television?
LCD. So what does LCD stand for? Do you guys know? I'll tell you.
Oh,
liquid crystal, like obsidian display. Little black mirror. What color's your phone when it's off?
Chingo.
Get your phone.
Freaking
it cracks. I'm gonna get my stupid iPhone. God, careful.
Get another zebra cake. No, he doesn't know where it went. Oh, there it is.
And that's how I broke the hotel
window.
That's
how I broke the window.
We're back. We're having a moment. But I mean,
a little seizure.
How do they work? Like how does that phone with the bite of the apple on the back exactly work? You know the story about how we got it? You know that story about Steve Jobs?
Yeah, well, I heard like the Apple logo itself is like a kick at referencing the apple.
Okay, so here's the story about how Steve Jobs got the actual technology to make the phone. He was a yogi. Did you know that?
No idea.
No idea.
Okay. So Steve Jobs, I'm just a huge dork. Just remember that. Like I lettered in debate. This is like who I am. And I know I don't look like I should, but this is what it is. So I know it's deceiving because I still do makeup and stuff, but this is what my brain does. I get off on a little tangent and go look it up. So Steve Jobs was a yogi, and he actually traveled to India, and he was in search of this like master that knew all this stuff. And they were like, well, he was sick or died or something. They were like, oh, there's this other guy. He lives up on the mountain, and he's there, and he's kind of youngish, but he's never had parents, and he never gets older. And they're like, you should go see him. And he's like, yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea. So he goes up there and talks to this guy. And the next thing he knows, he comes back with all this information and starts making the iPhone. And how do we even power it? Like, how does it work? Like, why does it work? Like, what is it? How does that happen? And then we look at the AI boxes. Have you seen those?
Yes.
And they look like they actually have a heartbeat, like the guy's up talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is terrifying. And they look like a kind of a monolith in a way, the thing they have to keep them in. I'm going to blow your mind again. Don't watch the phone. Okay. You watch out. All right. So they have to keep the box in sub-zero temperatures at this specific temperature, right? And I was listening to it and I was like, this temperature, this sounds familiar. And then I'm like, oh yeah, like those shots they had, and they had to keep in this specific temperature.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, dang.
So I'm not saying anybody did or didn't get, not a mark of a beast per se, but I'm saying I think they're always trying to convert what we have as human to prime our bodies to accept something that is not. Exactly. Also, it could be that like nano chipping. It could be part of Project Bluebeam. Yeah, I think it's more like Project Bluebeam. Like maybe those people will have better reception to the plan. I don't know. You know, I think
it's almost kind of like a takeover of the mind. You know, like they're not going to be conscientious or aware. It's just a whole like.
It's a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
because if you talk to them,
the vaccine zombies right now.
Yeah, like they are. It's so
people
true.
Going crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
They have, and there. Have you ever? Okay, like we make a joke about this, but this is real for me. Like some of the people I loved the most in my life that got that still, even though I was like, listen to me, you know, like it didn't matter what we did. Okay, it didn't matter. And so me and my little family, we were like holding down the fort. We're like, screw this. We're not doing it. We didn't do it. None of us, not a single. I was like, you come near my kid and I will punch you. Like I like had an escape plan. I had a go bag. I still do. Everything's still ready. Like I'm fine. I'll live in my camper. Like, whatever, you know? And so we're here and everybody else we tried to talk to is like, they're not listening. And even my mom, who I love, and she listens to all my stuff now. So she's going to hear this. She doesn't get offended because I asked her. Because I was like, the other day, I was like, man, I'm kind of a dick. Like, are you cool with me telling this? She's like, yeah, it's whatever. It happened, you know? And I would break it down and I would tell her all this stuff and she would go home and it was like immediately reprogrammed. Like I would call her. I'm like, no, we just talked about this. Like, don't do it. Like I talked to you about this. And it was like immediate. And I'll be damned if she didn't get 2 of them. And now she has a lot of problems. Yeah. And she swears, she's like, she's showing me now. She's coming out of whatever fog she was in. She's like, this is making me older. This is making me sick. Like all this stuff. She's got some shakes that weren't there. Like all kinds of weird stuff. And then the other day I go to the doctor because my kids get strep throat. And I'm like, oh man, my throat hurts. So I'm like, all right, shit. I go to the doctor. I'm like, you know, talking to him. He's this older guy. He's like probably 68, 70. He's like talking to me and he said, you know, and it was so weird that he just like popped off and said this to me. It was almost like he knew. Yeah. And he goes, whatever you do, he's writing my prescription for just my antibiotic. I didn't say shit. He goes, whatever you do, don't get that shot. And I said, what shot's that? And he said, that COVID shot. Yeah. And I said, oh, really? Why? You can beep that jab shot. And he goes,
the Fauci, yeah.
And I go, well, what? And so I'm thinking to myself, why is he telling me this? You know? And I go, well, oh, yeah, I know. Why? And he goes, well, I did. And I got like 6 times I got shingles up my nose so bad down my throat, all through my body. And if they tell me I have to do it again, I'll just quit because I'm old. Yeah. And he goes, so don't get any more of them. And I looked him straight in the face and I said, they didn't get me once. And he goes, smart girl.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not taking any fake crap. Like when you come out with a brand name of something that you never manufactured, never once have they manufactured not even one of the brand name. Do you know that? Not one.
Wow.
So let me, here goes back to the dorky lady. All right. So the patent for emergency medication only works for the emergency medication. It doesn't work once they create the patented medication. They made the patented medication, and the patented medication, can I say a brand name on here, or should I just say the medication? Okay.
Yeah.
Comirnaty. Its name is Comirnaty. And so Comirnaty is what they authorized. It has different ingredients in it than the emergency authorized version. However, they have never once, to date, made one single one of them in the United States, nor do they have a date for when they will, because they don't know, because they're still using the emergency authorized ones, which is illegal now that we have a patent on the one that's FDA approved. They shouldn't be doing that anymore, and they know it. Don't kill me. People. Everybody knows. I've put it out there multiple times. I do not ever want to leave this earth by my own hand, so don't come at me. Anyway, don't Killery me. Yeah, no. So basically what they did is they found a giant loophole. They forced everyone to do it, but they couldn't force you to do it because that was never approved by the FDA. So everybody was lied to. Is lie.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable too, because at my job they were pressuring it so much, and it got to the point where I thought that they were going to, like, here's the deal, either you get it or you're fired, right?
Yeah, so that's what they were doing.
Like, well, whatever, if I'm fired, I'm fired. I'm
fired. Yeah, going home. Yeah.
And then everybody, like, in my place I work at, got it except for me and a couple 5 other like-minded people. Well, my buddy, he's a hacker, and he's like,
make you a card.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he didn't make me one, but he made him one. He's like, I tell you what, I'll be the test dummy. I'll do it, and we'll see if they call BS on it and they catch it.
Hilarious.
And if they catch it, whatever, we won't do it. But
right?
Yeah. And then
they were happy, and you're like,
they were
happy.
Me too. Okay, cool, you got it. And then right after that, they said a week later, they said, don't worry, you guys don't have to do it if you don't want to. So what's funny though is that whenever we're arguing with other people at work, he can't go with me and argue with them
because he did it. He did it.
Yeah, he did it. So
maybe he pooped it out.
Yeah, basically, So he's like, he kind of gets in. He's like, well,
man.
Okay, never mind. I can't talk.
He's like, well, I'm not getting any more of those. I'm not having to do that. I'm not going to do that again.
I got one, so that's it.
So I have a question for you, because you're surrounded by people at your work that did it. How many times have they all had it?
Oh,
a lot, right? Man. How many times have you had it?
One time. That was it.
Yep. That's right.
0 for me.
And this guy that I work with,
everybody that got it keeps getting it.
He's gotten this is his
weakens your immunity.
This is his 5th booster.
Yeah.
Okay, mind you. And he went to the hospital because he had blood clots.
And he's like, I'm gonna die from my booster now.
No,
it's so bad. No, it's true.
So he is poor guy. Like, I've tried to talk to him. He is such a sheep. It's insane.
Oh, my neighbor down the street, I'm talking to her, and sometimes I forget where I am.
Yeah.
Or like what I'm talking about. And so I forget that there's people out there in the world like that, because we all talk like, our life is in podcasting, or like my home is the same, So I'm talking to this lady. She's like, my dad died last week, and he had a heart attack in the car, and he crashed his car, like boom, like just gone. And I said, did he get the shots? And she said, oh yeah, every single one. And to me, I caught it different. Like, she was like telling me, oh yes, like I missed it. Okay. And I was, and it's a text, so you can't read that emotion. And I'm thinking, she's like, oh yeah, 5, that's my thought. No. And then I'm like, well, they like came out on the 13th of October, on Friday the 13th. And with all this information that was connected with heart problems, like Pfizer released a whole bunch of stuff. You should go look at it. And she was like, no, what? No, he probably had COVID at the time. Like he was probably super sick. I'm like, oh yeah, probably. Like, yeah. I just shut up. I was like,
I'm gonna let that ship sail away for right now.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
she
doesn't know me. Yeah, she doesn't even know me very good.
They were visually attacked by a shark.
Oh, right.
Such a stupid story. I'm like, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, I'll shut up now because you're just my daughter's little friend's mom. I was like,
go live in
please still let her play.
Yeah.
I was like, don't ban her from my family.
Yeah, but I'm curious though if they try to pull this crap again. I'm really curious.
Oh man, I believe it's
it
gonna
won't
be
work.
All the stuff happening right now, like.
Oh yeah, the stuff they're passing.
Yes.
Yeah, like like even I came across this podcast. Actually, his wife told me about it, but it's called the Red Pill Your Health podcast. And man, I love both of the backgrounds, and two, like their parents, and they believe in strengthening the family. And one is was a nurse practitioner and is now just fully focuses on like creating an awareness, creating more like a big truther movement. And the other dude's a chiropractor, and like I love like his research, and they're really good at it. But yeah, like I'm trying to do more research into vaccine stuff, which we could talk a little bit more about. Like
you gotta go, you gotta go through the Last American Vagabond and go to all his old stuff. Like he goes through
the first American Vagabond,
the last, and he got. So listen to this. I found him on Spotify during 2020, right? Like maybe the end of 2019, and I love him, and I would listen every single day. He does these crazy shows, 3 to 5 hours, bro. Like buckle up, buttercup. Like he's crazy in it. So I'm listening to him one day, and then I go to find him. I'm like, where'd he go? And so I'm like, oh, well, I guess he's not on there. So I'm looking everywhere, and then I find him. Yes, I find him. He had to create his own website. He was gone for 2 weeks.
Okay.
They took all his.
No.
They took all his money. They took everything he got from PayPal and took it and wouldn't give it back. They seized everything of his and never gave it back. And they were like, well, too bad. You're a terrorist because you didn't like tell the truth. And he's like, you know why I got in trouble? He's like, there's a ton of people out there, and it's Ryan Christian. And all you have to do is type it in Google, The Last American Vagabond. It'll come up. And he does he's still doing it, and he does it on the wars too. He does it on any news basically. And it was so funny during this time because I tell my mom, oh, this is going to happen and this and this and this. And she's like, oh,
what's
and then like Ryan Christian.
Okay. And
so I would tell her, and like 5 days later, 10 days later, it would happen. She's like, how did you know that? And I'm like, well, I'm not John D. I watched it, and she's like, oh, okay. So, but the thing why they came after him so hardcore is because he cites everything at the bottom. And so if you do that and you're in this business and you give every single like reference, they will nail you. They will shut you down. And you know what they're doing about the internet right now and all the stuff they're trying to pass through the FAA, right?
I haven't heard a lot about it, but I'm assuming they're shutting down a lot more sites. And
Biden is trying to take complete control of the FCC.
Over the censoring and all that.
Yep. Over everything. And it's never happened in 99 years, ever.
Yes.
Where it's
freedom of speech.
So it's very nerve-wracking.
Whenever, when was it? It was sometime earlier this year. Whenever I think Facebook shut down, but it was to see what other social platforms people would flock to. Yeah, I mean, and then they saw they couldn't really do about the what was that other one? Telegram.
Oh, Telegram.
Oh, yeah. You
told me like DuckDuckGo now. They're not so private anymore.
Well, DuckDuckGo, the owner actually
sold out. He sold out. Mm-hmm. Dang. We're living in very surface times. Like this is why I very rarely do politics stuff, even though I know a lot of stuff, but like my stuff is the medical stuff, not like true politics, because I feel like why bother? I'm like, they're all on the same team. Like you guys can get on team A, team B. They're all having dinner at so-and-so's the next wherever,
To me, I'm looking at it, as a statue of like Baphomet, right? You got Satan in the middle and you got left wing and you got the right wings. Like they're part of the same.
They're all together. And if you think that like that is your savior, like he probably can't help you anyway. Like, I'm sorry. Like you need to look further. We can't be focused on that. That means nothing to me. It means zero. Not that I'm not patriotic. It makes me sad. Like, who would have thought, that this world, but like they're changing everything, now. Okay, let me do a fun little thing with you guys. What do you remember about George Washington that was kind of funny as a kid? Like something a little bit weird, not the tree.
I remember we had like wooden teeth. Like I remember.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Now they don't anymore. Now the wooden teeth don't exist anymore because they Mandela that.
Mandela.
Let me
weird.
Let me ask you this: what laid with the lamb in the Bible?
The lion.
No, it's the wolf. That makes no sense. Jesus is the lion. You know that Jesus represents there's like a whole thing of things. It's like the fish and the lion and there's like the dove and there's one more. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any, and the lamb, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? And I look at even old books. I found my Bible that's like an old 1940 something Bible. Still it says wolf.
Well, get this. Okay, get this. Okay, get this. This is a trip. Okay, so I go everything like biblically based, right? So I got a King James, I got a new King James,
NRSV, yep, all that,
yeah, all that stuff, right? I got about a good like 10 of them. Well, I'm going through them, and there's certain scriptures that are missing, some that are added, some that are not, right? Well, I started looking up the whole publishing aspect of them. The NIV and something else, they're published by the same company that publishes the Satanic Bible.
Yeah, but no, I believe it. That's why God tells us. That's why God tells you to know your scriptures in your
100%.
Brain. Yeah, because they're going to keep doing this. Like
and
also
not only
the
that,
Lord's
too,
Prayer.
Yeah.
So you seem to know a lot of things about like not religion, but like God. Okay, and maybe do you know like the Bible? Oh, sorry, I'm going to just tell you this. Okay, so. Our Father who art in heaven, right? Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespassers, right? That's how I know it.
Yeah.
Not forgive us our debtors. No. What? Yeah. No, I never learned it that way. And I went to Catholic school, which is weird for a Mormon, by the way. It was some gifted program. And I was like, what the hell are we doing on Fridays? Why are we going in here? Why are we eating fish every Friday? I don't like it. But yeah.
And what the heck was I going to say? And what's a trip to with that is, oh gosh.
They're changing everything. Biblically, well, we were talking about Bible. Biblically, they change everything all the time.
All the time.
We have to know.
Oh, yes, that's what it was. Okay. Now, since the whole AI is coming out, right?
Yep.
And you're really running strong. They're starting to let AI preach instead of a man, right? Like in New York and England and stuff like that. They're doing that a lot. And I was listening to End Times headlines, and the guy was breaking it down. He's like, this AI's flipping the word of God. Sounds good, but biblically, it's not. It doesn't.
It's not. It
doesn't hold any merit whatsoever, and people have got to know their word.
Well, and that's the whole thing that the Gnostic movement does. Like they do the same thing. They flip it to make it sound great, right? The same thing with the positivity movement of Christians, right? Like you can never. My daughter that I'm estranged from is in this. Like, ooh, we can't be around her because she's crazy because she thinks like this in this way. So, we're just in positive land and positive things, and that's not real. Like that's not how the Bible is. I remember really bad times for Job, y'all.
100%.
Like, come on.
Jesus even says you are not going to go through this life without scars.
Well, and he says that if you believe in me, they'll hate you like they hated me.
Exactly.
Right? Like
they hated me first.
And you can feel it. You can feel it, bro. Like I don't know about you guys, but especially here, there's some weird there's people that are Mormons, and that's weird enough. But there's these people that are kind of witches, and like I went one time. Took my daughter like outdoorsy place. It's like a cabin, but it's old. So like no running water, all this stuff. It's cute, right? It's like fun, We get there and my daughter, we like check in and the lady is just like, I'm doing it for her birthday. So I'm trying to coordinate with this lady. And she just looks at me afterward and she goes, that lady hates you. And I said, yeah, I know. And she's like, why? You didn't even do it. You were being way nice. And I'm like, because she can tell. I just love God and she knows it. And so we went to leave and we came out a different way than we came in. And she had an offering table right there. And I was like, she's a witch.
That's why spiritually she knew something was up.
Yep, because they are aggravated by your stench. That's what it says. Like
100%.
Literally your smell of like goodness, not a bad stench. I never smell bad. I love me some Bath and Body, but I'm just saying.
It's not what your husband said.
Yeah, right. He buys me it. And so I'm like, well, all right. So you can figure it out. Like you can feel it too. And I work at I'm mental hospital now. Like I work at the mental.
You're gonna say I'm mental. No,
I am. I'm mental hospital nurse. And I am mental too, because I go there and I'm like, I gotta go home. No, but you can feel it. You can feel the people that are sick. And like afflicted kind of, and you can feel the people that are demonized, and it's a different feeling. And I have been in a room very rarely with that I would say that's very rare, but there's been times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like somebody went for coffee once and I was alone with this kid, and like he was a kid, bro, like I should have been afraid, and he stopped and just stared at me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. Like I was so scared. And he didn't do anything per se. I mean, at that moment, things got weirder in a bit, but like he, you get beat up sometimes. It's fine. But it's whatever. It was before that. But when he looked at me, I was like, that is not a human inside those eyes. Like it was so scary. And I was like, that's rare. That thank heavens, because I don't love that. But now that I'm starting to get better on like my own journey inside myself, now I just pray for them, because, I'm like, and people say, well, how can you still work there? Like, what about the drugs they give? And what about this and that? I'm like, yeah, but then if nobody helps them that really believes, how are they going to get any help?
Well, not only that though, I think God has you in a place on where he needs you to be right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I never wanted to do that kind of nursing. I was an ER nurse for most of my career. I did like step down, really high intense, scary stuff. Kind of, I did labor and delivery for a while. No, none of that ever again. Seen enough vag to put me in a coffin. Oh my gosh. And if a lady falls down right now, or I did tell my husband, I will do it again if it becomes end times and we need like a sheep, I can help deliver their baby. Like I can do it. I'm good at it, but it's just not for me. Plus it's women again, and we get back to that. And it's a whole thing. Like, the guys in the ER, they're the guys. When you got the guys, like I'm a guy's girl. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then there's like men. That's different than the guys, right? They're the men. They wear the pointy shoes. They're usually the doctors. They got very fancy shoes. That's all I know. But also church leaders kind of go in that for me. And I'm always like, ugh. Like, if you wear pointy shoes, we cannot. I don't know. My husband's always like, when you were younger, were you like gonna date doctors? And I'm like, ew, no. I'm like, I've never dated a guy that didn't wear work boots, so no. Absolutely not.
That's funny.
He's like, yeah, and I'm white collar, but I'm like, ew, no, not that.
That's not your slave.
Yeah, no, one step above Neanderthal. That is perfect.
Caveman.
Yes, almost. Yeah. So you guys have any other questions for me, like about Mormons? Because I'm off topic. I went clear off. I derailed us. Okay.
No, well, like I do want to know a little bit. I mean, I know the basics about Scientology, but not really the origins.
Right. The origins. So do you know about Jack Parsons and Ron Hubbard in the desert and what they did?
I do.
Should we tell him? They opened something.
They opened up a portal, and then one of them died in an accident.
Yes. So
the portal. I did hear about
this. And he never closed that portal.
Mm-hmm.
Was the one who opened it? It was his DNA.
Freaking aliens started landing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And well, and that whole story about the guy stealing the other guy's wife, that happened too. Yeah. So first they were doing butt stuff. And then I think that didn't work.
It's like those aliens get in.
Get in.
Like, that's why I said when you said they opened a portal, and that's why I was laughing. They did. He's uncomfortable now. Yeah, you can't joke with a nurse. We're not right. So anyways, that didn't work. Apparently they need a lady. So they switch up wives. Same story, right? We've heard this before. And so the funny part is Hubbard was like, I like yours better than mine. Like when you try and take your friend's toy, well, that happened. And then all of a sudden Parsons blew himself up, even though he made all the things for rockets and knew all about this stuff. Somehow he blew himself up in his garage. So because he didn't know all of a sudden how to do that. He made the technology. So cool story. But the angels did tell them, write this down and write it in a book. And guess what? Boom, Scientology. So wife swap. Wife swap.
Ron Hubbard, it reminds me of the dude from NASA, Von Braun.
Oh, yeah.
Von Braun.
Oh, yeah. Von Braun.
Yeah.
Oh, and his last words.
How did you get that technology? He's like, I got it from them. And he pointed up.
Well, and he left us on his tombstone. He left us little nuggets, even like he constantly, flat about Earth. Yeah,
and what's funny was that my wife's grandfather, he worked for NASA, and this other guy got I was going through like my Bible study group. He used to work for NASA as like a mathematician, so I start questioning him on that stuff, and they get so mad. I'm like, okay,
shut down. Okay, do this. If he's still there, this will be hilarious. Just walk up to him and be like, you know what I heard? I was just curious, who owns all the helium? Just do it like that. Just say, I was just wondering who owns all the helium in the world, like in our world, like America, whatever, and see what he does. See if he gets squirmy, because NASA does.
Okay.
Interesting.
And you want to know why that's important? Because if you know anything about airships and air travel and vanilla sky, it goes into a whole wormhole of like, that's a whole big thing. So look into airships and you'll see why they own all the helium, because it's very interesting. Like I said, this is my ADD brain, but like it's a smart brain, but it's all over in there.
Man, I'm like, it sounds like it gets real deep. I'm like, oh, right here, just like a snippet, like a little synopsis.
Yes. So Scientology, yes, I agree. Same thing. Wife swap, write the book. John D. Although no baby, I don't think was out of that one, but who knows, right? Who knows? And Crowley, he was the same way. Even though he called it AWAS, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
he was doing all kinds of swapping. Yep.
Hey, well, that was a character in Avatar, which I know that's a transhumanism.
Mm-hmm. A cold one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for real. It's actually frightening when you start thinking about like, well, why does that work? Well, why does this work? Well, what's going on with that? Like, what? Okay, do this for me. We can't keep, okay, you have kids. How come we can't keep our kids' little truck that he got for Christmas going for more than like 2 hours with the stupid battery, but we never have to change a pacemaker battery? Why? How come?
You got me.
These are the things that I go through at night in my brain, and then I start researching and I scare myself and I can't sleep.
Okay, so what'd you find out?
Yeah. So it's actually your electricity in your body.
In your body.
So how come they say that doesn't work for other things? And how come they want you to wear tennis shoes that have this much rubber?
Because you're not getting any grounding.
Exactly. And then you get poisoned. You literally get poisoned from it because the electron transfer doesn't happen. So you're constantly at a different level.
And what's funny is that naturally too, like whenever you see grass, you naturally want to take your shoes off and walk on it.
Yep. And kids do it all the time.
Oh, 100%.
You can't keep their shoes on.
Because I noticed, like, I mean, my son will be in a bad mood and we go outside and he grounds, like, we'll just he's so freaking thrilled.
He's fine. Yep. I changed. I still have a lot of problems with my back, but my feet used to kill me because of nursing, right? Like we call it call it the nurse curse too. Like we see something and then it'll happen to us. I swear.
Oh no.
But like, so for me, I'm extra either, I don't know, like just clumsy or like have these weird genetic things. But I decided about 2 years ago, because I had horrible plantar fasciitis, I had all these problems with my feet. And I was like, I'm going to try these other shoes because I've tried everything, like gone to the doctors, had shots, all the stuff. So I heard about these dumb trail shoes. They're trail shoes. They're like from Merrell trail runner shoes. Yeah. They look stupid. Okay. I was not down. I was like, these are
really, really thin.
Yes. They look like water socks. And so I felt so dumb wearing them at first. Now I almost never don't wear them. I don't even care how stupid I look. I don't care. I'm like, nope, I'm not wearing anything else, especially if we're going to be outside a lot where you can, it's different. It's weird. And so I told my son that same thing because he was having foot pain. I'm like, you should try that maybe. I mean,
because I looked up some grounding shoes, and I mean, for me, I'm like, they're pretty expensive, but
they are.
you really
They
do
are
get what you pay
expensive.
for, and it does
Yes.
feel, man, it feels so good. I love walking out. My wife thinks it's disgusting, but I love walking outside barefoot.
I do too. I never wear shoes, like unless I mean, if you're going to be on asphalt or something, but yeah, I'm like you. I never wear shoes inside. I never I'm never wearing shoes unless I have to. And so you'll like them if you're like that. If you like that barefoot feeling, you'll like barefoot
I'm actually
shoes.
gonna look into these type of shoes because I've noticed a difference in which I've known, but I've honestly just been too cheap and just too lazy to actually go look for these.
It is. It's hard too because you can get some bad ones. Like I got some that were a different brand because I was like, this is sort of similar. And I'd already had a good pair. And then
my next brand.
Don't do it. Don't, just they're garbage. I'm like, this is not the same. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't worth it. But I mean, I can tell you, like, it really did help, like, with a lot of my foot pain. So that's kind of weird. You know, like people are like, oh, doesn't that hurt your feet? You're just walking flat like that. I'm like, actually, no.
like you adapt. And like,
yeah.
it's crazy because since
your body naturally goes where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And then since we naturally like came from the earth, I mean, it'll naturally have a positive effect. Because I was reading to you about like, what is it? Ions and anyway, it's just really good for us.
It is the electron transfer. It's probably the electron.
And I tried making my own grounding pad, like, which I took out like that one. Like I took out that one piece that would actually be straight electricity to the metal sheet.
Right.
So make sure that you do that, people. If
don't do that. You're like, don't do that. Oh my gosh.
I mean, you can buy. They have blankets as well that you can get.
Right.
Even comforters. But I'm like, man, I like getting to the source. But
yeah.
But too, like with that, because those are something I want to do a lot more research into, which is not a whole lot, but.
Well, I mean, because think about it. And then they want to try and lie to us all the time. They're like, oh, smart dust. Right. Like we have just dust floating around. We can do this stuff with. I'm like, well, you do a lot of stuff with a lot of other stuff. Like, what about that pacemaker thing? Right. Like, what are you talking about? Why are we acting stupid for one thing, but like not for another thing? Right. They're like, we can't do that.
Think about all the crap they put in the atmosphere with those chemtrails and then like when I'm outside with my son, because we live out in the country, so I love looking up
and seeing the X's and the Freemason signs.
I just inhale all of it. Oh, so good.
Yeah, and it's so scary.
but
I get you.
And I'm like barefoot and everything, and then I think about too. I'm like, man, and then also it goes into like the 13 months we're supposed to have in a year, and how it's a set like our frequencies off and all this stuff.
They scramble everything. They want everything confused because if you figure it out, just like the whole Jesus's birthday, like, Christmas is totally about like a fake demon god.
Yeah, next month we're gonna cover that.
Like, we're covering that next month.
Yeah. Like, so they want you to do these things. So like Saturnalia, like, woohoo, like, let's do that instead, and people don't know. And my thing is, I still celebrate Christmas. Okay. But I also tell my kids the truth. I'm like, number one, here's the thing. Jesus was black. My kids know. Or brown. He might have been a brown, black. He could have been like Arabic.
Oh, yeah, because he was in the Middle East. Dark.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I tell my kids, like, here's a picture of the people from there.
Oh, side note, too, like, on the white Jesus that everyone
white and delightsome, the Pope's nephew.
Yes.
Yeah. One.
Yep, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, white delight.
Oh my gosh.
Sodomite. We are all praising the sodomite.
That's about it.
So yeah, that's definitely what it was.
Yeah, and they also make them look like super tiny and small. I'm like, dude, no, as a carpenter back then, they did everything.
This guy was the nephew of the Pope, and he was Agrippa's boyfriend. So that's
a pretty
what
big
was.
grip on him.
Yes. And so they were like, this would be funny if we did this, and then also it goes back to like their hate of King James, and he was also black, and like he did the Bible thing. So they were, it all goes line in line in line. They just, and so they make it look like a curse. They make it look like whatever they want. Like the Mormons took that clear to a whole nother
Yeah, I watched the Mormon. It was
Oh.
a promotional video, like an older one,
So
and they were
bad.
saying like black people are cursed.
Oh yeah, no, they are.
I'm like,
Yeah,
that's just it's
they
so wild.
they won't
Like,
tell you this now. Like they told me that,
I
and
wish I'd
they
download that video
yeah.
so I can prove to people. I'm like, but
Oh, it's in their Bible. I can send it to you. It says
Yeah, send it to me
something
through
about
IG.
yeah, it says something like if they would have done what they were supposed to do, then they wouldn't have this curse. And then so they had the curse of Cain. But I'll send you what they took out. They have this cool little nifty thing, and it's like, this is what it used to say, and this is what it says now. And it used to say, and they were cursed with the color of blackness. And now it says like, and they were removed from the Lord's presence. That's what they changed it to. I was like, what?
Nice.
Yeah. And then their prophet said, and I quote, second prophet of the church said, they asked him about slavery, and he said, I have to support slavery 100% because I didn't put the curse on them and I can't lift it. So we must support it, because until God removes the curse, we have to be like, okay about it. And he was, so then he also said they should buy up all the Native American children. You heard me say buy up all the Native American children. And so they can bring them into their churches to make them, and I quote, more white and delightsome. And then they said also that if they found their wife in bed with a black person, they should just not spare the sword and stab it through both of them.
Jesus.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was crazy. He also wore a bloodstone, and they called him Bloody Brigham. So yes, he was quite the guy. And so you could do a deep dive on Bloody Brigham himself, but he was a very racist ass. But now they're like cleansing the Book of Mormon again. So like they redo it.
They're actually revamping it, I guess.
Yeah, they do. And I think it's had like more than 100 changes. It's really a lot, and they change it all the time to make it look better. But they actually made it. So remember me telling you how the priesthood was everything, right? And that's why women are not as like important, whatever. So they made it so that black people could not have the priesthood until, hold on, 1978. Do you know how not very long ago that was? I'm older than that. I'm older than that. And so I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, you can't go to heaven without it. So basically they were like, too bad for you. You don't get to go to heaven. And I'm like, who the hell is joining the church that's telling them this? Like, what? You know, and thank heavens. Well, I've said this story before, and this is funny. God is not racist. I have news for you folks. First of all, souls don't have color, nor do they have like male or female or any of that crap. And so we just are souls. Like none of that means anything when you die. So anyways, my stepdad was excessively racist when I was growing up. He's terrible. And he used to tell me all about how I should never intermarry and all about that whole priesthood thing and blah, blah, blah. And I was always like, yeah, that whole spirit thing. I was like, this doesn't feel right, And so I would mess with my family all the time and be like, okay, grandpa, would you rather me date a return missionary? That's like the cream of the crop, right? The door knocker. Return missionary, been through the temple, best guy ever. He's black. Or the white hillbilly down the street that's been to jail. And he's like, don't play this game. I'm like, no, I want to know. I'm just curious. Like, so he would get really mad at me because I would screw with him a lot. I dated whoever I want, but I did end up marrying a redhead because I just liked him a lot. But my brother, this is so great. He married a black girl. She's from Chicago. And she wasn't a little bit black. She was a lot of black. And she was awesome. And she was really nice. And they had a baby. And so my stepdad, that was super racist, had one son. That was my brother. And he got married to the black girl and had one baby. He passed away. She passed away. And the only living posterity of the really racist guy is black. And that's God. Because he teaches us how not to be an idiot. And he loves her and he learns better. He's still an idiot. But I think that when you keep having the same lesson, you're going to have to learn it the hard way. And it has nothing to do. She's beautiful. She's a wonderful person. We love her. It doesn't even matter. It never mattered to me. I could care less, But and people say, well, what about your kids? I'm like, bring on whatever color you want. I don't care. If they're rude to you, you don't want me coming to you, because because I'm white, but then I get a little, I don't know. My son
Not
was
quick
always
bag.
like,
Yeah. He said.
Yes. He's always like, the only people at school that understand me is either the Latin kids or the black kids, because they're like, your mom's not white. Because she gets mad like a black mom or like a brown mom. Like she gets mad at you. I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't have to beat you to get mad at you, but you're going to know what I think. I have to yell like this now because it got really big. Yeah. He's like looking down at me. You stop it.
That's funny.
Like, how did you get so big?
Well, now it's so crazy. We're like, because I remember back, especially since COVID, parents were speaking out a bit against about this stupid mask thing. Like, I mean, I did it just because like I was, respect for my wife and then other family members, but I thought it was so dumb. Like, I mean, and if you look into it, I'm like, man, it's only good for like 5 minutes, and you have to keep changing out your mask.
No, if you touch it once, if you move it once, if you scratch your nose, everything.
It's so good. And then we had family members like they wouldn't even, and this was back when my son was born, like they wouldn't even come around us just because they did not want to wear masks. And if we wore them, they didn't want to be part of that. I'm like, man, dude, show us where your heart is.
Yeah.
Like that's the worst thing I have to do. Like that's, I don't know.
But then sometimes people are so ignorant and not ignorant like rude, like, but they are that too. But ignorant, like they would tell this to me, and I have such severe asthma that I cannot tolerate a mask. Like, so there's these things called CO2 retainers, and I am one. We carry extra CO2 in our blood. And so when we have a mask on, it's even more CO2, and I can pass out from it. And so I would explain this to people, and they're like, so what? Put it on. Like, what if I pass out? Yeah, what's gonna happen to me then? Like,
dude, okay, right before like you gotta poke them with like a needle and just lean forward.
Right. Move my nose a little.
Jeez, it was funny because the whole mask thing. Like, okay, here's the deal. Like, if you can smell my fart and it goes through my shorts, on my boxers and my denim jeans. Come on, man.
Well, and even the guy, this is my favorite thing. Last American Vagabond. This is from, I'm not this smart. He had the guy on that does the OSHA for all the companies for like construction, not for sickness. He does the masks for asbestos and all those kind of things. And he said the particle from the vid is actually like way smaller than like all these other things that they have this particulate mask for that are fitted, that have to be specialized for your face. So my husband works in a mine and he has one of these freaking masks. Okay. And they look like Luke, I am your father off Back to the Future, when he had it, and it has like two little things on the sides. It looks scary. I'm not going to lie to you. And it's like a respirator mask. Okay. I can't even wear one of those because of my asthma, like ever, because you have to have that for like tuberculosis rooms and stuff. That particle is way bigger. And he said, I do the mask safety. Take these off your kids. They're not doing anything. This is way bigger. You have to do it. And he wasn't an anti guy. He said, you have to do it in the filtration system. He was pro fixing the vid. He was still like on the dumb train, but he was like, you have to do it with air filtration and this micro, whatever. And he went off about this whole big smart thing. And I was like, that makes so much more sense because that's what we do for tuberculosis rooms. We have these negative air pressure rooms that suck it out and take it outside.
Yeah.
And so we have those for the vid rooms too. Now, even though like when they get it at our hospital, whatever, we're just all like, okay, so, now, but then I was scared, if you go to my old Facebook or whatever, you're going to see me probably in one back then. I was scared. I'm a essential worker. I'm going to the hospital. You guys are going to the mail place or I'm going to I'm in it. And I was scared because I got asthma and I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to go.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Like when it first kicked off, it was something new.
Oh my god!
Everyone was like, "Oh crap, what's gonna happen?" And
did you get your letter in the mail too? Like, you are an essential worker, and I was like, "Shit."
Yeah, I remember getting mine.
And then as the months went on, like I was actually looking at first responders and medical people, and I'm like, "Okay,
they don't look too worried." Yeah, right, they started pulling it.
I start seeing them die like right off the rip.
Dropping.
This is bad, but nah, we're good.
You started seeing them pull them down. You know what you started seeing? People wearing them, but not really. Yeah.
And then what got me too was people were actually eating, right? They pulled the mask down.
Oh, please sit down. please sit down to eat, and you can remove your mask at Olive Garden. You can beat that.
You see, like, these artists up there singing on stage, and then all the kids trying to play their instruments. We're having to wear them.
It's so funny. Like, we're going to look back on this later and we're going to laugh, but I fear that what's happening with that is that the same thing that happened in the old world stuff, if you look back at it, they can make it whatever they want to make it. We will remember it, us, as what it was, but they'll make it whatever they want to make it. Just like Nazi Germany, just like the old world, just like, and why were there so many mental asylum stuff back like in the 1890s, 1900s? Because people that wouldn't go along to get along ended up in there.
Well, it's just
so like, we all would have been in there probably, you know.
Like their concentration camps too, with the whole FEMA and all that.
Yep. And they're gonna do it whatever they want. I mean, that's the thing. We ultimately have to, like, I think Christians have this really weird, like, they think like, okay, if I pray enough or I do this enough, I'm not going to suffer. No, you're probably going to suffer. Don't forget. When I joke about this stuff and people get like maybe sometimes a little weirded out with me because I'm like, just make sure the blade's sharp because I really don't care, because you know what they told us growing up about the whole blade in their head and stuff. I'm like, just don't miss, like, crap. Don't make me go like eighth, like I'd like to be first, I don't want to see anything happen to my kids. That's the only thing, but it's like, stuff's going to pop off, eventually, if we want God to come back, like we
got to go through.
I mean, yeah, it is what it is. And so my mom's always panicking too. Like, well, why would they do this? Or why would they do that? I'm like, well, because they want it to happen. Like, they don't care, and the last time we got this deep into genetic messing around and like, oh, let's play with this gene and making this miracle baby, not just like put the stuff together, like, oh, blue eyes and purple hair and whatever, I'm gonna pick this designer child and make it. And then the AI stuff and all this other crap, what happened last time they started modifying with DNA, because we all got flooded.
Genesis 6, yep.
And now we're in fire. I don't know, it's scary to think that I don't know, those that
it could be our times, like us.
Yeah, like I know, like, it's every day, we never know, it's gonna appear like a thief in the night.
Birth pains, baby, birth pains.
Yeah, and I know right now, I mean, I don't know if we're close, but I know there's a lot of signs.
And then you wonder, like, what are they manufacturing? What are they? Because they've said, like, okay, what did it say in the last days? That there would be wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes and all this stuff, but also they can manufacture all of it now. They can manufacture the weather, everything, the earthquakes, all of it. They're constantly messing with it. The day after, or maybe the day of, all this crap popping off where it is right now. Okay, I don't know how much censoring you want to get there. So in the Middle East, we'll just say that. Okay, there was a huge earthquake the next day. Did you guys see that? Yeah, and everybody's just ignoring it. And the day before the night of my baptism, like it was like 4 a.m, a huge bolt of lightning came, like, I know, because he knew, comes out of the sky and hits like a whole bunch of we don't get thunderstorms like you guys get. I've been in the Midwest and I've been like, what was that? And my ex-husband lived in Iowa and he's like, it's a thunderstorm. And I was like, I think the world's crashing. Like, what? This is what happens when it rains here? Like, this is terrifying because that doesn't happen out here. Okay, I'm in Utah. So when it did, it woke me straight up out of my sleep. And then I thought, like, I was dreaming the next day, kind of. I woke up and I saw these pictures and the lightning looks like portals. I will send it to you. It's like a circle.
Dude, please
send it.
Oh my gosh. So then this is hilarious because this is like the morning of it's like 4 a.m. I'm getting baptized like that afternoon. And I'm like, oh, that was weird. Okay, so I'm getting ready with the fam, million kids. So I'm trying to figure all that out. Get them out the door. I got the last one. She's like me. She's ADD City. And like, oh my gosh. Okay, so we get everybody there and we get to the dam. And then my mom texts me the next morning and she sends me this news article. And these are all news articles, like real news. There was an earthquake right after my baptism.
Oh my God.
after the lightning, and then there's the earthquake. But the weird thing was I had a dream the night before that God and the devil were fighting over my soul. And I was like, that was weird. I know. I was like, wow. Okay. Glad I got okay on that one. I was like, oh, my husband was like, oh, that was weird. Because I had already told him that morning. And he was like, what? There was an earthquake? I was like, I guess so. That's like not normal up there. So yeah, it's scary. What do you do? A good part one.
Yeah, then you have the tornadoes out here as well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't even. My ex-husband told me, because he's from Iowa, that when he was little, a tornado picked up his principal of his school, and he lived. It dropped him and like broke like his whole back and everything. I was like, what? I'm like, we can never live there. No.
Dude, golly, he must have made.
Can you imagine?
Hell no.
I don't know. I'm like, you better drop me from further. I don't want to make it that. Are you crazy? No way.
We had a guy who was running on the local greenway here, and there was a tornado that going over, and he ended up like grabbing onto a tree or a pole of some sort, and like it didn't take him. Like he just looked in the whole thing, and it was just crazy. I'm like,
he's like, is it the rapture? He's like, do I let go? Do I hold on?
I ain't going yet.
It's just yeah, there's this guy named Michael Brown, and he's anti-rapture and everything, and I love the way he explains things. But he remembered that's what he was taught growing up, and then when he was young, he went to the church, and he thought everybody was raptured, and he's really freaking out. But it turned out the times changed, and he got there an hour early. But it's so wild, like because
he's like, there's no one here.
God did not want me to have the spirit of fear, and that started like sending him down a rabbit hole.
You start learning. You start learning stuff. Like I was like getting really deep into some weird. You heard about the Cabbage Patch Babies?
Yeah.
This shit. Okay.
I like these women that meet up.
I don't know how much longer you guys want me to keep rambling.
Right,
give me the tea,
and then we'll cut it.
Give me the tea. Okay, because it's late. All right. So I start learning. I'm only learning this because I'm trying to look for the actual cornerstone foundations of the Mormon temple in Salt Lake City, because these guys are Masons. They're going to have a cornerstone ceremony. They always do, and they always have. They didn't. And I can't find one picture other than like they say this is the foundation. It's like 4 rocks kind of lying sideways. And I'm like, I mean, I'm a girl and I'm like, that doesn't look level. Like, wait, what? And then so they started like taking it apart because they said earthquakes. So we don't get that many earthquakes, by the way. So they're like, we got to put these stems down in there so it doesn't fall over and it can bend. So the guy that does all the Sartorius, what's his name? John Levi. He was doing this video and he's asking the construction workers like, hey, how far down does that thing go? And he's like, 4 more levels that we know of. It's like buried. And so I'm like, right. Cause they found it. Cause I have these pictures where it looks like Solomon's temple kind of, and it's flat, but then they added it looks like they just added the top. I'll send you these spires that were on top of it. It's so weirdly old world with the vanilla sky and everything. And I was like, that's really weird. So I went down the rabbit. I'm already there in the time zone. So I was like looking at something and said something orphan trains. And I was like, what? So I start looking this up and I went way down. So let me ask you this. How many kids were dispersed in America only from 1890 to like, I don't know, it was like 1920 or something like that with these orphan trains? Do you guys know?
Oh God. It was like I was watching stuff with thousands and thousands, dude.
So 250,000.
Figured, yes.
Where did they come from? Okay, hold on. Wait, it gets better. Then take those kids and then take the old world fair kids that they have all these babies. Now remember, this is a time when we don't have enough food. We don't have enough grown-ups. Little kids are like in textile mills and like all these weird places doing jobs that are crazy, like pictures of kids at factories and weird stuff. And they're sleeping in the streets because we have all these kids everywhere. So really, we need to save the babies that are born 3 to 4 months early because we already have too many kids coming out our ears that we have to make these giant orphanages, right? So we don't want to let any of them die, for heaven's sakes. Let's save them all because we have nowhere to put them and nobody wants them. And so save them and charge $0.25 for each one so that you can come see them, whatever, at Coney Island. This really happened. And so all these babies are there. And I'm like thinking, as a mother, I'm like, how would somebody rip my baby out of my arm? Like, it would be a fight to the death. Like, I don't care how stressed I was or whatever. You're not gonna let go of your baby. And most of the time they were born at home at this time, really, So they got all these babies, and I'm thinking, like, where do these babies come from? Then you get into the Cabbage Patch babies where they're pulling them out of, and then you start thinking, and it goes, I don't know if you saw my last couple with this one lady named Sharisa. I'll send it to you if not, but we go into the Nephilim, right?
Yeah.
And where they went, well, they're eternal. People forget one thing. They're like, God flooded the earth because the angels. Okay, back it up. Angels are eternal, bro. The reason why God got so pissed that they want to come down here and have babies with women is because angels are eternal and they don't need a posterity because they're eternal. They don't need a posterity. It's stupid. He actually was coming after the chimeras that they created, I believe.
Yes, because
it's bad. Yeah, it was like the Egyptian heads of like
DNA war.
Yeah, like weird things, chickens and then people bodies and horsemen's, all that weird stuff. Okay, so we got this stuff that he got rid of, but even if the angels are dead, not in a body, they're eternal spirits roaming this earth, So all I can think of is like, I asked my uncle one time, I was like, hey, so you're like a highly decorated Green Beret, like airborne, and you're retired and everything. So you'll see some weird stuff. he's like, yeah. I'm like, what about all those underground like bunker cities? And he's like, oh yeah, that's a thing. And I'm like, yeah, I thought it would be. And he's like, no, it's like a whole, like, it's a thing. I'm like, yeah. So I heard about the ones in Mount Shasta. He's like, it's a thing.
I've seen one.
Yeah, it's real. It's real.
I've seen one. When I was working law enforcement in Colorado, we had to escort a guy to meet the governor of Colorado at the Denver International Airport.
Oh, treasure trove.
So basically, in a nutshell, we escorted him there, and then we went down a couple levels, and then opened up some double doors, and we seen like a railway station, like a rail for the train.
Well, and they have all these closed off railway stations underground of California. Yeah. People don't understand all this. And in Utah, we have a complete underground grid system to the temple and all the whole city, completely everywhere. Like I did a big study on this because I did a different thing on a high school, but funny enough, right across the street from a Freemason temple, which was great. And so it was all like weirdly connected with the temple and tunnels and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, so how did they figure out, and when did they figure out test tube babies, right? And then you get into like, well, they did that, and then the orphan trains and these babies, and then everybody started saying things like, let me give you a thing that we just say, farm boy. You have a farm boy. Why is there a farm boy? Where'd the farm boy come from, right? Like because you would just go, and funny enough, these orphan trains were made by the Freemasons. And then they would stop at the Freemason lodges, put them up on a stage, which is where we get the word up for adoption. So they were treated worse. Yes, treated worse than slaves. Like open their mouths, look at them up and down, like all this. They were treated worse. They weren't even bought. They were given away. These people, these babies, little children given away. And nobody gives a shit. Like, really? There's not one mom out there like, well, I want my kid back, you know, like making a fuss. Nobody cares. So we've got all this integration, right? And they get older and get married. And the thing about the orphan trains too is not a single color child was allowed to ride. Not ever. Not brown, not black. And what do we have an abundance of in America that is weird, kind of, because if you go anywhere else, there's a really diverse population more, you know. If you go to France, if you go to Germany, if you go to England, you see a lot more colored people, like different colors, not just colored, like colors, multiple colors, all different colors. How come America is so bright. Right. You know, it was the whitening of America. They did it on purpose. And I truly believe it got carried over into Nazi Germany, and that a lot of that was continued. And then what do we do with a whole Mengele twins, weird crap, all that? It all goes back into it. And I truly believe they did some weird stuff, not just cloning, but possible like angel DNA, weird stuff like that. Like, who knows? But I know this. You can't just stick a sperm and an egg in a petri dish. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You have to give it a spark of life. All this knowledge that we ended up with, all this stuff that we can do, they're like growing organs in like fridges, you know, the things they can do and the things they said they've done. Like, I don't know if you ever look at the Clonaid company, look up Clonaid and look up the first clone was said to have been made in like 2007 or something like that. It's like way a long time ago, right after the Dolly. Okay. They did it with a kid and they said they did. And this isn't just like weird news. This was on 60 Minutes. I found this clip on 60 Minutes.
Wow. It was in 2005.
And her name was Eve.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Eve. And they said that they did that. And then all of a sudden I seen the 60 Minutes recirculate in like 2015. And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do it for the first time ever. I'm like, wait a minute. I saw you did that before for the first time ever once before. They've been doing stuff. And all these superstars that have their fake bellies and their babies and always twins and like whatever they wanted and however they look, you tell me what's going on. Way genetic modification. So much. It's going to piss God off. 100%. Eventually, this is going to blow up in our faces, you know. But yeah, look up the Cabbage Patch Babies too. You'll go down a fun rabbit hole. Look up the Great Deception podcast. It's really good. Matt from Great Deception. He knows many. I'll be doing one with him in December. So it's interesting. When you open your mind, the things you can see, it's wild. Yes, Cabbage Patch Babies, or Old World Fair too. Those are
Old World Fair. Yeah, that's a good one.
So creepy. So anyway, that's my conspiratorial mind. That's why I say I go deep on the rabbit holes.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that was fantastic for round two. I mean, for round one.
He's already thinking of round two. He's like,
gonna have you back on again for sure.
Yes, of course.
All right, Heidi, where could we'll just let you talk to our listeners. Where can people find you if they got any questions or anything like that?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm at the Unfiltered Rise podcast. I'm wherever podcasts are served and even on YouTube for the moment. But we just did one on the Divine Council, so we'll see how far. We'll see. Yeah. But anyways, I'm on the rest of them, so if anything happens, you can find me there.
Right on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yes, this was fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll definitely have you back on for sure. And
yes,
I wouldn't mind going down that road of we'll definitely learn some stuff too. So
yeah, of course.
Definitely
we'll give you some things to study for while you're at your thing, and you can go talk about the crazy lady tomorrow. Yeah.
I'm so excited.
All right, Heidi, be blessed. You're awesome.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
If you got any questions, we'll hit you up, and we'll keep in touch for sure.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Whoops. I accidentally. There we go.
How dare you? I'm kidding.
Sorry, I forgot I wasn't recording it. You guys are.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh.
So you gotta scroll down.
Do it.